My name is Jake Van Tubbergen. I'm here to tell you about mental health. Sometimes the toughest battles are the ones that you don't see. I'm here to tell you about mental health and how it can affect every single one of us. When you're 18, 19 years old, you're not really thinking of the effects of loss of somebody very close to you and what they're going through mentally and the pain that can bring somebody. I think that is something that has shaped me and provided a new perspective on life as an athlete and as an everyday person, because we all go through things that we don't want to talk about. So I was about 18 years old and on the road for a basketball game in Ohio, and we're going into practice and our coach tells us to leave the phones on the bus. And you know, you're 18 years old, you're not really, you think, oh, why is coach telling me what to do about my phone, this and that. And then come to find out after the practice, coach pulls me aside and tells me to call my dad, which right then I kind of knew something was up. And I called my dad and he had a really hard time forming words to tell me that my best friend had passed away from suicide. So my friend Bryce, he meant the world to me. We were those two kids that did everything together. We went to the park together, we went and shot baskets together, we went and, you know, just hung out at each other's houses every chance that we could get. And he was just a very genuine guy that really wanted nothing but the best for all the people around him. The kind of initial reaction I had to hearing that news was obviously shock and hurt, very, very hurt. Obviously, I was a trip away and I wasn't around home at this point in time. And so I made the decision to continue to play in the game the next day. And it was unlike any experience I'd ever had. You know, you're an athlete, you get locked into the game and get in the zone, they say. But for whatever reason, this day I was just too distracted. I couldn't get involved. After the game, go home and seeing his parents and family, that was incredibly difficult to sit there and try to say anything, really, because it was a shock. We had just spoken on the phone a few hours before I got that call from my dad. So it was a shock, it hurt. Losing your best friend just didn't make sense at all. In terms of my friend's mental health, nobody had any idea. This was I wouldn't have guessed something like that would happen in a million years. He was a very personable person. He liked making other people laugh. He enjoyed life. So hearing something like that only made me question what could have brought him to do this. Why didn't he say anything? Why didn't somebody reach out to him? I mean, all those questions that go through your head when, you know, your world is spinning. He played baseball, so I'd go work out with his baseball workout, and then he'd come do my basketball workout. And so we just kind of pushed each other in each other's areas, because we knew that we had aspirations of going beyond college and maybe being a pro one day. And he was one of the first people to tell me that I could be a pro. And so hearing that from somebody close in your circle, it means a great deal. Obviously, everybody wants to play well, and there's a little bit of pressure in terms of wanting to succeed and not letting your teammates down in that capacity. However, looking back at it, this provided a different perspective for me to where, okay, at the end of the day, it is just a basketball game or a baseball game or whatever game it may be. However, taking that into account, there's a lot more things at stake in terms of, you know, people have real lives outside of basketball. They have the real things they're going through, real stresses, there's a world outside of just sports. And I think that sometimes that gets overlooked. And I know a lot of athletes will kind of put their personality an identity into themselves as a player, which can cause you to overthink and, just not be as confident as it may be. But however, the pressure of everyday life, I feel like, is far greater than a pressure from a sports game. I think there is a toughness in the game, but there's also a toughness outside of the game that is, I think, a completely different idea. I think being tough to me is having those tough conversations that you maybe don't want to have, or seeking help that you do need, I think is a lot tougher of a thing to do than most people recognize. There is something to be said about speaking up when you are feeling some type of way, and just kind of releasing the stress that somebody may be holding internally. And in doing so, I think that makes you a tough individual, because people don't want to talk about their struggles. They want to talk about their successes. And rightfully so, being able to open up, I think, is a very strong and powerful thing to do.